So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe, where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be? Or in other words, conquer their dyslexia. That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. Guys, I want to talk about the step 3 in the Conquering Dyslexia book. What's in the Conquering Dyslexia audiobook? Step 3 is own your dyslexia. I'm so excited to talk about this, and I got some stories that maybe can bring some insight to you about owning your dyslexia. But before I jump right in about how you can start owning your dyslexia, if you want to know more about dyslexia, if you want to conquer dyslexia and actually learn in depth about how you can own your dyslexia, there's my book. It took me 3 years to write, and I want to give it to you completely for free as an audiobook. If you haven't got it yet, conqueringdyslexia.net/book, you can get it. So when I talk about owning your dyslexia, this is step 3 in kind of conquering your dyslexia, the step 3 principles. Now, to conquer your dyslexia, to own your dyslexia is quite interesting, because when I say own your dyslexia, a lot of people have dyslexia, don't they? Now, I got dyslexia. What do you mean own it? I mean be proud of it. I mean decide what it is, because a lot of times people can get wrapped up in having I've got dyslexia, and they get wrapped up in sort of like feeling like someone else put a label on them. Does that make sense? Feeling like someone else put something on them in their life, sort of like say, you've got dyslexia, and dyslexia is this, and this is how it's going to affect your life. And you nod your head, go, okay, this is what I've got. And a lot of people like take this in and sort of not question it at all. And I remember that's exactly what happened with me. I was like, okay, I got dyslexia, I went to special needs school. Okay, this is what dyslexia is. This is how it affects you. This is what you're good at. This is what you're bad at. Nodding my head. I remember, like, basically everyone used to say to me, because everyone used to believe at that time, if you have dyslexia, words must move around in the page. And people used to say to me, do those words move around in the page? Oh, try this colour overlay. Oh, try this colour overlay. And I was doing it, and people just like, does that make a difference? I'm like, no, it doesn't make a difference. People are like, well, does that make it? No, it doesn't make a difference. Like, well, does the words move on? Does the word get a bit blurry if you stare at it for like 2 hours? I was like, yeah, if I stare at it for 2 hours, it gets a bit blurry. And people were saying these things, and eventually I gave in, and I kind of told a little fib like, yes, the words do move around on the page. Yes, I do need a colour overlay, because people time and time again would say, you need this, the words move around on your page. I was like, okay, the words move around on the page, I need that. Sort of hypnotised by other people telling me what to do. And I was having these things, and even though it wasn't true, even though the words didn't move around, even though there's barely any difference from seeing it from a blue to a grey to a green, compared to just having a normal white piece of paper reading the words, I don't really need a colour. Sometimes it's actually useful, sometimes my brain's about to explode, but most of the time it doesn't make a difference. And because people kept enforcing this idea of what dyslexia is on me, that's how I do it. And so many times people have this ideas of like they're lazy or they're dumb, and because other people said certain things, because other people done certain things, because they're dyslexia. But I want really in step number 3, and the principle number 3, it's really called principles, not steps, really realise that dyslexia is just a word. Listen to that very carefully. Dyslexia is just a word. And guess how old that word is? It's 130 years old. That particular word is 130 years old. There's a lot of words that's been a lot older than that. 130 years old. You mean you're great? You're probably great granddad or grandma were around when they, like before then, when they were born. Dyslexia wasn't existed. The word didn't exist. Dyslexia is just a word to describe by people acting differently, and that's it. And to give you a little example about what dyslexia is, this little story that I say, because remember when I was passionate about learning about dyslexia, I was like, okay, let's learn about dyslexia. So I searched up the definition of what is dyslexia, and you know what I found on Google? Definition of dyslexia: a problem understanding words, sounds, and symbols words, sounds and symbols, but has no effect on general intelligence. When I read that, I got annoyed, because of course dyslexia's got a massive effect on my general intelligence. What I mean when I say effect on general intelligence, my world is, I see things differently than everyone else. I used to describe dyslexia like this. It's like, if, for example, me and my non-dyslexic friend went into a cinema, right? And watched the same film, we'd come out with two different experiences. My friend would notice different things than I. I would notice different things funny. I would take different things away from my friend. Because I see things different. My brain's just wired differently. That's how I used to describe dyslexia. So like, well, this is wrong. Let's find out why dyslexia exists. Let's get more in depth in it. And I find about all the different, basically, theories about why dyslexia exists. About the, auditory processing theory. About, the phonological theory. All these theories, complex names. I was getting very confused. Because guess what? There's like 4 or 5 different theories out there. Lots of science backed up. But yet they contrast and conflict with one another and all these stuff. Like, there's no agreement about what it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. Like, this is confusing. Thank you, like my shirt says, my friend got it for me. Dyslexics are people poo, which I think is quite funny. It's good to make humour out of your dyslexia. So anyway, you've lost my train of thought. So I was there, and yeah. So I was trying to find out what dyslexia was, and it's all confusing. And then I remember watching this documentary. It's called The Myth of Dyslexia. It's on YouTube. You can search it up. It will annoy you if you're passionate about dyslexia. Basically, his argument is that dyslexia doesn't exist because there's no scientific way of distinguishing a dyslexic from a non-dyslexic. And it had this bloke called Keith Stanovich, who's regarded by a lot of people actually, as one of the world's leading experts, authorities in words. This is quite big. And he was saying that basically what he done, he set out on a mission to scientifically, definitive way, like a line in the sand, prove the difference between a dyslexic person and what he called a garden variety. And what is a garden variety? A garden variety is a person that has very low reading and writing ability, the same as a dyslexic person, but also has low IQ level, has low general intelligence. Saying a dyslexic, define a dyslexic, high IQ, high general intelligence. Some may think, okay, he's actually quite smart, or actually, you mean he's normally smart, but yet he's very low in these areas, and there's no reason. You mean we don't understand why he's low in these areas? Let's call him dyslexia. There's other people that are low in all the other areas, also low with reading and writing. Well, it's not smart. That's why they call the game garden variety, because there seems to be nothing special about them. Okay, so they had these two groups. You know what they done? After 10 years, there was no difference in the two groups. They couldn't find a difference in the two groups. Basically, they'd have the same dyslexic designed reading program for both the two groups. And guess what? The two groups would improve their reading ability the same amount. And when I learned this, I got annoyed. I think I phoned my controller and missed the TV. But basically, I got annoyed thinking, just because one group of people would learn dyslexia, and has a label and a sheet of paper saying, I have dyslexia, meaning that they would get the proper help and support they need and a lot of money, and the other group of people wouldn't get the support because they don't have a piece of paper saying they're dyslexic, even though it would prove them, even though they need it just as much, probably even more so. That's unjust, and it's not good. Anyway, that just gives you an idea to understand why dyslexia is. And I remember getting annoyed then and there and putting out a piece of paper and writing down, what is dyslexia? And I wrote down, dyslexia is a made-up word. It's a made-up word. Words have no meaning. The only meaning they have is the meaning we decide them to mean. It's the meaning we give them. For example, the word Allah means different things to different people. The word Jesus means different things to different people. The word love can mean different things to different people. If you, for example, if you're talking to your ex-wife's best friend, their ex-wife's name will mean different things to different people, right? Because their experience of it. My idea of dyslexia was completely different to when I was in my special needs school to now. Same thing, same person, different experiences, different meanings, okay? Words only mean what we decide them to mean, okay? So I wrote these down out. I came out, okay, what is my dyslexia? I started to define my dyslexia. I was like, okay, my dyslexia is, dyslexia is malleable, dyslexia is changeable, dyslexia is a gift. Dyslexia sort of like means that you have weaknesses because I have strengths, I have strengths because I have weaknesses, and all these things. I started to be positive about my dyslexia and create my new definitions of dyslexia and move forward in life. And then I moved forward in life about redefining my dyslexia, and things were a lot better. Things seemed a lot more clearer, and that's the essence of step number 3: define your redefine, not define, redefine your dyslexia. Because guess what? No one knows you more than you. No one knows who you are more than you. No matter what specialist is saying, no matter what person, no matter what degrees, they don't know you as much as you know you, okay? And you have to figure out, okay, this is my life. Dyslexia is a part of me. Dyslexia is something someone put upon me. Dyslexia is someone sort of pointed at me saying, you have dyslexia. No, for example, I got diagnosed with dyslexia in a number of things. But I'm not going to hold up that. I decided not to hold this like auditory processing and attention deficit, all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to hold those labels there. I'm going to say, okay, all this stuff that I find difficult, I'm going to put it as dyslexia. I don't care if it's a real definition. I'm just going to say it's dyslexia and explain it that way. And I created my own meaning for what Theo's dyslexia is. And dyslexia is different, okay? There's certain commonalities, but it's different. And if you go around defining your own dyslexia, because oftentimes we'll be trapped because we think, oh, our dyslexia is something that we can't control. Our dyslexia is fixed. It's not. Dyslexia is malleable, just as you are. There's a thing called the brain called neuroplasticity, meaning you can strengthen connections. If I do this all the time, I will strengthen that connection. But for example, if I never leave my arms up, my arms can get weak. Exactly the same as the brain works. If you do something with the brain over and over again, it can create neural connections, and that's how I've learnt to read a couple months ago. Anyway, guys, step number 3 is redefining your dyslexia. And what I always say, if you want to actually use this, use what I'm saying, not just listen thinking, this is great advice, Theo. Actually use it. Simple exercise. Come out, write down a couple beliefs, like 3-4 beliefs that you believe about dyslexia that's negative, that you know is not really true, but you just feel like it. And guess what? Other people have put those beliefs on you. Okay? Other people have put those beliefs on you. And then contrast, right, for example, if you write 4 beliefs down that are negative beliefs about dyslexia that you believe, in contrast, write 4 opposite beliefs, contrasting that. For example, dyslexia means I can never be able to read. Dyslexia means that I'm going to have the motivation to learn to read more than everyone else. Something like that. So it's opposite. And once you redefine your dyslexia, like, for example, beliefs I came up with was like, dyslexia is malleable, it's changeable, okay? Dyslexia isn't one thing, okay? Another thing I came up with is like dyslexia, dyslexia isn't a disadvantage, it's the environment we live in that makes dyslexia a disadvantage. Isn't that true? It's the environment we live in, the environment we put around that makes dyslexia a disadvantage. A couple hundred years ago, if you didn't have to read and write, dyslexia wouldn't be a disadvantage, it'd be an amazing advantage, okay? So all these things I came up with beliefs about it, and beliefs about like, the struggles we face with dyslexia makes me a stronger person. Because just because something is hard doesn't mean it's bad. Just because it doesn't feel nice doesn't mean it's bad for you. Oftentimes, doing the hard things make us better because it makes us stronger. Okay, so it's about changing that beliefs about what we've been brought up to believe. It's about going back and keep on redefining your dyslexia so it empowers you instead of disempowers you. Alright guys, I'll do tomorrow for step number 4. Step number 4 is uncovering your true dyslexia. I'm so excited for that. But make sure guys, if you haven't got your audiobook, the Conquering Dyslexia book, this because I'm just scratching the surface here. We go in depth, like, look, this is, let me see, like, look. Step number 3, define your dyslexia, diagram. Bullet points, diagram, take back the power, all this stuff. Get this audiobook, and also through the audiobook, I'll send you an ebook of. Anyway, it'll be exciting. Get the audiobook of it. It'll help you if you're a parent, got a dyslexic kid. It'll help you as well. But make sure you get that, and I'll see you for tomorrow. Glad you're watching.